let's debrief our very first advanced auto-rotation course. CW, you came out here 2 weeks ago, approximately.
Yep.
And Hauser and I laid out as an initial advanced auto-rotation course. We laid out a plan of what we thought was going to work. You came out, did the first day. Day number 2 was looking like, well, you came in day 2, but the ceilings were iffy. Right. And part of this auto that we're going to talk about this course, one thing is Hauser wants to do is get up at different altitudes, different air speeds, and do different things that people don't get to do. So you decided to go ahead and go home and come back a couple weeks, pick a better day. Today you got blue skies.
Yep.
So you could go out to whatever altitude you wanted and do day number 2. So let's run down. What we initially did is we figured 3 flights for this advanced auto-rotation course. And then we decided to give you an extra flight. So today you got 2 flights.
Right.
So let's just debrief for ourselves because we're recording this and we'll transcribe it, and AI will put it together for us in a nice form, and we can evaluate in chapters and titles and the whole course. So what did you guys do for flight number 1? Either one of you, go ahead, jump in.
In my case, I hadn't flown in quite a while. So basically what we did is we came out and we did some quick stops to get familiar with the helicopter again. And then we just did the basic straight ins and 180 autos. And then that was the first hour, just kind of getting back into it. Whereas if somebody who had flown recently or whatever, they might have moved a little faster in that first hour. And then in the second hour, we concentrated on maximum glide, minimum glide, just going along, and suddenly the engine cut, and being aware, situational awareness, where you might have to go to when you weren't expecting it, which reinforces that you should always be looking for a spot and backing up. And then what was planned for the next day, which we actually did today, was because of the weather, and I made the decision to no-go. We came back today, and then what we did in the first hour, again, some quick stops, straight in, 180, and then we worked on, let's see here, I got to try and remember here now. S-turns and stuff. And then, and one of the things that, if you haven't done an S-turn before, or done recently, and one of the things you should be aware of, because initially on my first S-turn, I turned right, and then Chris pointed out afterwards it might have been better to go left because of the direction the wind was coming in. And when we went and did the second one and went left and then right, it actually worked better. So, not doing them all the time or whatever, in that whole quick process of going into an auto and doing an S-turn, I failed to think about the direction of the wind. So that was a good learning point for me, that now I can be a little bit more cognizant of the wind if I got into one of those situations. And then after lunch, we went out and we did 360 autos, and we did zero speed autos, and both were really enjoyable. Never done them before. The main thing is you got to watch your spot and your speed and your RPMs, and on the first one, I kind of was, I think it was a little bit too fast on the speed, so that ended up I went a little bit long from my spot. But on the second one, I had better control of it, and I got closer. And then on the zero autos, really they were kind of exciting. Once you get past that initial, zero speed, and you go collective down, right pedal, everything, it's almost like you're frozen time. You just nothing seems to move. If you're doing everything right, you just keep coming down, nothing's moving, everything's good. And then, at about 300 feet or whatever, that's when you want to push forward to get your speed back on, to come into your flare to do your power recovery. And then after that, the last thing we did was straight in, full down. autos, which I'd not done in several years. And again, that was a good experience, remembering just to, just keep going and make sure at the end you push forward so you come down and keep the pedals right so you can be straight. So overall, I think it was a great experience. And as the first one, I really think if you're coming out here, you should think or give your own evaluation to Chris or Kenny as to how comfortable or how experienced you think you are, because that might determine whether you need just 3 hours or is it really important to do that 4th hour. And then the other thing too, depending on the time of the year, just have in your mind a backup plan. What if the weather goes bad? Am I prepared to stay another day, or is it better to come back, another time? Or, if you made this appointment 2 weeks ago and 2 weeks from now the weather's kind of looking, work with Kenny and Chris to say, hey, you know what you guys are expecting of the weather, is it really worth for me to come and only do part of it, or depending on your schedule, can you block me in another time? So you get the best bang for your buck.
Is there anything that you guys did that CW didn't think of to mention while he was going through that? Anything else?
No, I think he hit it pretty good. One thing I would like to not stress, but just make it important that we want to tailor this course to the individual, right? So he kind of touched on it. So CW, when he came here on the first day, he hadn't flown in
About
several
4 months.
months.
Yeah.
So you've got to learn to crawl before he can walk, right? So we wanted to make sure, hey, let's make sure that the straight ins and the 180s are good before we go into the advanced stuff, right? And I'm always going to do that no matter if you're flying at all. So I mean, a student or someone that's coming here, we're always going to do straight in 180s first, because I want to see what you're used to, or see how you do it or whatever. But in CW's case, I think, and it's nothing to his flying, I think we took an extra maybe 20 minutes or half an hour spending on straight ins and straight ins and 180s, because he hasn't flown for a while.
Right.
So what I'm getting at is we tailored it to CW, and that's why he took a 4th flight, so we could get everything that we wanted, that we had discussed, what we wanted to make this course about,
right,
so he could experience it all. A person that might come in here that's been flying a lot and used to, or maybe even an instructor who's been used to teaching 180s and straight ins or whatever, and is used to the autos, he may come in here and, hey, show me straight in, show me 180. Hey, perfect, great. Let's move on to the next thing. And he might be able to do it in the 3 hours or whatever. So I think we will tailor it to that person, but it's like he said that you two things, one, weather. So if you're thinking, we offer, I think it's a 2-day course, right? Well, exactly what happened to CW is I want for the 360 autos and the 0 speed, I like to have more altitude so we can play with the glide, right? I mean, I'm not saying that that's where you will fly at, but that's what we wanted so we could play with the glide. And on that day, that second day he was here, I mean, we had 400, 500-foot ceilings. Well, that wasn't going to work for what we... So, someone needs to plan on, okay, maybe an extra day in case of weather, and then maybe plan on a day, maybe an extra hour if things don't go... I'm not saying bad, the first hour, but just maybe we want to spend a little extra time on something. So,
and you might have somebody that comes in that's always been 44s and you only have the 22 available, or vice versa.
Yep.
That could also impact that, that extra hour or whatever.
But overall, I think we structured it.
Yeah, let's cover that. So our original plan was 2-day course, 3 hours, probably 1 to 2 hours the first day, and then 1 to 2 the second day, depending on how weather played out. Your first flight, I remember you said just what you've already told us. Go out in the first flight, cover the basics, quick stops, straight ins, 180s, just as a warm up, because when somebody comes here, they're flying with different instructors they've probably never flown with before. They've never been to this airport, different aircraft. So let the person get warmed up, number one. And then what was your plan for step number 2, flight 2?
Flight 2 would be stretching the glide, minimizing the glide. I think what else do we have planned in there? Oh, we did going out and just I don't think a lot of times when because like we've said before, when you're training to a standard, right? Straight in 180s. Well, you don't go off, when you don't go out and just kind of play. So stretching the glide, minimizing the glide, and then, hey, we're just going to go fly, and I'm just going to say auto, 3, 2, 1. Or
Picking random altitudes and airspeeds to give people out of the box, something they don't get to normally do.
Directions, right? We might be cruising with a direct headwind. Okay, auto, 3, 2, 1, and then we're straight in, right? But we might be cruising along with maybe a right crosswind, and I'll be like, auto. Now what? You'd be amazed. A lot of times I have done that with some people, and they just do straight in. Well, where's the wind coming from? Oh, it's coming off my right. Well, why are we not turning into the wind? Oh, I guess I didn't think about it. So that's something that we want to do, and it might be a tailwind. So we might be over, maybe we were over an open field, and now we're over woods with a tailwind, and I say engine failure. Well, we got to get turned around and because our spot's behind us. So that was flight number 2, was working on max glide, min glide, and then just going out, and we might be at 500 AGL and engine fails, or we might be up at cruise altitude with cruise airspeed.
And one of the good learning points I got is because not being familiar with the area, and when we did go into the auto, and it was when I got closer that I realized there was the irrigation line or whatever, which from when I went in I wasn't, so I kind of had to change, kind of towards the end there, because I didn't pick up on it. So that's another thing too, is to be, really thinking about whatever, or
And it's one of those things too where I don't think people practice that because they're just all about practicing for the rating. But who's to say you don't get down in that field and the last 100 feet you might have to make that turn, because you saw the irrigation system late,
right?
And I'm thinking, okay, what are we gonna do? And we just kind of kept going. Okay, let's make a turn, and then we turn. So that was flight 2, hour 2, and then hour 3 today for him. But for hour 3 would be the 360 autos, the 0 airspeed autos, and then the full downs.
Okay. All right. So that was our plan. You did all of that stuff. Is there anything you would like to add on the next one that you didn't cover?
I was thinking on this last one that, we're doing autos, right? Maybe we should incorporate a couple different hover autos.
Yeah.
Meaning,
Absolutely.
because most of the time we're training 3 to 5 feet, right? And into the wind, and that's how we do it, right? Well, who's to say that your engine doesn't quit as we're, hover taxi.
Hover taxi would be a good one, during a hover taxi.
Or you're at a higher altitude. I try to show that at least once when I'm with a student, be like, okay, say for some reason we're hovering at 10 feet and we have an engine failure. Well, most people say, well, just do a hover auto. Okay, yeah, we could if you time that right. But I would suggest let's push forward and basically make it a run-on.
Yeah.
That way,
I agree.
the skids can take forward movement, right? So that will cushion our landing. Plus, we can time it. If we don't time it right from 10 feet, we're gonna split the skids, right? But if you push forward, adds a little bit of momentum. Those skids, it's just like a run-on, right? So I'm thinking maybe adding some hover autos.
Funny, we never thought about that first time around.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why, but
a little maybe higher than normal, and absolutely during a hover taxi. Hover auto during a taxi. We should absolutely do that.
And then with the hover taxi, I just teach. Don't try to, you think of a hover or a hover auto, right? So who's to say that someone doesn't try to come to a stop and then do the hover auto? Just if you're 3 to 5 feet and your engine quits while you're hover taxi, just continue to push forward. Just run it on, cushion it with.
The other thing too might be a suggestion is basically you have like a ABC plan. A's R22s, B's 44s, and the C is one of each. Some student might want to, just see the difference between, same procedures, but what it's like to fly the 2 different frames.
So I'm thinking, add maybe hover autos in there if we can.
Yes.
And then I'd like to hear if anybody out there has a suggestion, see if there's anything that they would like to see that we could. I know we mentioned, I even hate to mention it, but I'm not all up on the no flare auto. I know there's a couple videos out there
Right.
that they talk about that. I'm telling you right now, I've never done one, I've never practiced it, so we're
Right.
going to keep that out of it for right now until I can actually speak with a person that has knowledge about it and how they would. So we're not going to do that right now.
Then there was one that you and I discussed, I don't know if you did, because we talked about we wanted to go out and practice it a little bit first, and we will, is engine failure on takeoff. Like at a lower altitude. Did you do any of that?
We did not do that, and part of that reason, that is in my back of my mind, but I have not gone out there myself and done it in a really long time, so I don't really want to go out there and, I would like to have a few under my belt with just me doing it first before I actually, obviously it can happen, right? You can be 300 feet off the ground in transition and you could lose it. So what are you going to do, you know? So
And that's something that you and I'll go out and do, and we'll do on our own or together and just go practice that. I feel comfortable doing the R44. I wouldn't be comfortable doing that in the R22. But we'll work on that, and I think we should add that. Maybe it might be 300 AGL, but it's stabilized takeoff, you're going. If there's runway, engine failure. So I think we should add that as well.
And as far as for the, any of the helicopter pilots that are thinking about coming here, there's plenty of hotels, reasonable prices. There's good places to eat. It's very easy to get from whatever hotel you're at to the airport. It's, H.O.G.S is very customer friendly. It's going to be you and the staff, and they take They take good care of you, and you get fed, right? Right, and you get fed, and I really see where you won't say, hey, it wasn't worth it.
Yeah, so those watching, put down below what you think you should see. If you didn't hear us discuss it, what would you like to see out of an advanced autorotation course? Is there anything, since we've went through everything you guys did, what we'd like to add? Is there anything else you can think of that's...
Well, overall, as being our first person, how was it in your experience? I heard you say that you haven't done the 360s and the zero. You've never done those, so that was a good experience.
I got, let's see, much more out of it than I expected. Obviously when you're going to do something that you haven't done before, you kind of wonder, and But personally, I like the way the stepping flow was. You start, like you say, crawl, walk, run, and after today or whatever, and having done it, I'm feel much more confident that if I ever got in a situation where I had to do a 360 or a zero, I know what to expect now. But and I plan to come back in the future to do the R44 because it wasn't available today, just to see the difference.
For our audience, you are a CFI.
Yes.
You are a CFI with 500 hours?
400.
400 hours. So it's stuff that you haven't got to do anywhere else that you train.
That's right.
And if you're new to the video, you might come along this video and don't know what we're doing. We're trying to get people out of the box things that you don't get to do at your flight school. And we understand training to a standard. And example, I like doing autos nice, clean, real smooth, lower and roll off. Hauser likes to do at airspeed like you're going cross country, real world, and roll the throttle off and then deal with it. So that's kind of what this course gives you is everybody has to train to a standard, and you got to do the straight in, you got to do the 180. And we worry that if that's all you ever do, then that's what you're only going to think of when the shit hits the fan. You're going to go, oh, straight in or oh, 180. Hauser calls it a training scar, and I agree with it. We're both ex-law enforcement. We know from our training when the stressful event happens, you go back to your training. You immediately go back to the way you were trained. So with this course, we're trying to give people a chance to do things that you don't get to do at your flight school. So we're not saying your flight school's bad because they don't do these things with you. People are trying to save money, get done in minimum time, so the flight school takes you and does the standard, everything required by the FAA, and that's all you get. So this course is giving you an opportunity outside the box, different airspeeds, different altitudes, different things across the board. So again, there's that stupid word, so. Put down below if there's anything you'd like to see, and we'll consider it. We won't do anything that we're not feel comfortable with, just like the the takeoff. We'll go out and play with that a little bit.
As time goes on, we're going to tweak this and we're going to, do some things. And the main thing I think for this course is that is exactly what you just said. You've been training either for your private or commercial, and all you've been doing is straight ends and 180s, right?
Yep.
Come here, like you say, we're going to take you out of the box a little bit. We're going to test you like a commercial pilot, like you are out there doing a job for someone. Like I set up what was our scenario for the zero airspeed. Well, you got a photographer in here taking pictures, and all of a sudden our engine quits. The only spot we have is, you can barely see it through the nose bubble, right? So that's the scenario, So, we're gonna have fun doing it, and we're gonna make you think. I think I made you think a couple times out there about, because as you being a CFI, I would ask you, okay, how come we didn't hit our spot? And you would be sitting here thinking, we kept our airspeed up. That's why we didn't. Or okay, well, how come we got low rotor RPM? Well, it's because we had collective up to control the rotor RPM, but then when we leveled out, we lost all that. So we need to get the collective back down. So it's going to make you think a little bit. But we're here to have some fun, and hopefully you walk away with learning something.
And another thing too, you might want to do as you advertise this, is if when you put it out or you have on your H.O.G.S like a little 2-minute, 3-minute, just a quick, this is a zero. You know what I mean? Just it might be the person, you know what I mean? That's on the fence, and they see a demonstration.
You're gonna be H.O.G.S new PR guy.
Okay, well, I'm trying to make it. I want Kenny to retire to a nice island where there's plenty of pina coladas, But have something that might be something that'll help the person that's on the fence or whatever, and say, well, I think I could do that, or I'd like to learn that. Again, just a suggestion.
Well, see at the bottom, CW's personal phone number. Yeah. You can call him if you're on the fence.
Yeah. I'm thinking of. I'm trying to behave here because I was going to make a wisecrack.
Yeah, don't put that on the video.
The one thing that I can't quit thinking about, just since in the last 5 minutes, we go out and train out of ground effect hover, and as commercial pilots, we go do it, and you might hover for hours doing photos at all kinds of events. Yeah. And private pilots are allowed to go out and hover out of ground effect and take pictures of their buddy's house or whatever. So it does make you think, since this is something that we actually teach people how to do, is go out there and hover out of ground effect as a normal thing in a helicopter that's perfectly accepted, why we've never been shown zero airspeed, unless just like we're doing here, right? Yeah. We're offering it to people and go, this isn't in a normal course of training. It makes you wonder, why is it not? Shouldn't pilots be introduced to, at least they know if the engine failed while you were doing out of ground effect hover, should at least experience it.
Well, maybe at most places where they practice, there's always open areas, right? So you just learn to push forward and build your airspeed and then find your spot. Maybe that's it. Maybe, because no one's probably doing a lot of training in downtown Indianapolis or downtown Dallas, or wherever, right? Where there is no, where you have to put it on top of a parking garage or put it in a ball diamond, or whatever.
Right.
I don't know. It's just, what I want people to know is it's just, like you said earlier, CW, it's just another tool, right? It's another tool in your toolbox that you could use. Like I was telling you, I was flat out told CW that I'm not a big fan of the S-turns. We show it. And I think the book actually talks about S-turns, but I think there's too much going on in S-turns. You got to control rotor RPM. You got to make your turns. You got to make sure as you get lower, you got to make sure you don't run into something. And then you got to keep your spot in view. I'm not a big fan of S-turns.
Me personally, I felt I actually had to think less about the zero in the 360 than I did about the S-turns. Yeah.
Well, I'll reiterate what you said a little while ago. We put down the initial course, a couple days and 3 hours. But we realize people are all going to be at different stages. So there's always the option to adjust for any one individual. If you're really current and you just want to do some extra stuff, then we could do a one-day thing. It wouldn't have to be 2-day, but we put out what we thought would be good for the first time around. So,
and the 2 days is, like you said, it is 3 hours, but it's you show up your first day, you're going to sit here, we're going to introduce, we're going to talk, we're going to find out what your background is, we're going to do that. So there's your morning there. Then there's lunch, and then you can maybe you'll do a flight in the afternoon. So there's day one. And so then day two, you show up, a lot less talking, a lot more flying, right?
Right. All right, well, I guess we'll wrap it up unless we can think of something else. Hayden, as of making this video, we're 13 years online. So we have 50% off all of our courses to the end of March. Lucky 13. So 13 years online, Lucky 13 is the code. 50%, go down below, and you get, I won't run after them, you get the H.O.G.S ball cap, or the H.O.G.S badass kneeboard, or H.O.G.S backpack on Professional Pilot. So let us know down below what else you might want to see in a course, and subscribe to the channel, click that bell too. That kind of helps.
And also, you'll get to meet Heather when you come here.
There you go.
The workhorse behind the actors.
Well, but she didn't have cheeseburgers here ready for us today, so I don't know.
You had another employee, but
Oh yeah,
there was.
There is another one, but
we don't know.
Who randomly? Oh, I just have too many important things to do today. Then show
That
up to
person
work.
is MIA. I don't.
Make sure she gets that copy of the video.
Oh, she's going to edit this video, so she'll get to hear it at the end. Unless I get tired of waiting because she can't make it another day, and I have to do it.
Stuck at a train. Anyway.
All right. Peace out.
Peace out.
Nice.
Sweetness. Good job, C-Dubs.
Thanks. 10 o'clock tomorrow then.
Uh-oh, this turned red. Is that good or bad? Did that turn red because you stopped recording, or did that turn red because of...
Probably